to join in. So, hello, I'm SoftDrink117, and this is my second restreamed unofficial English commentary broadcast of some of the STG runs from Stunfest 2014. So I'm going to be covering Hattori's Ikaruga Doubleplay, which is mind-blowingly impressive. Seriously, just oh my god. Anyway, so just kind of a couple notes before we begin. The official broadcast was actually not recorded from the beginning. They jump in at about the 1 minute 30-second mark of the game, which is why so we're not going to be seeing technically the entire replay. I'm going to restart it in a second. Don't worry, but that's a little bit frustrating. I would have hoped that the whole thing would have been captured start to finish. And this is a double play, so it's one person controlling both player ships, which is an incredibly impressive feat on its own. So an interesting kind of anecdote is I was actually really inspired by some of the early Ikaruga double plays and attempted to learn it myself, and it was met with horrendous failure. So I do have a little bit of, I guess, personal experience, at least trying to do this. So okay, people are here. Awesome. So general notes, kind of before we go into the game. Like I said, the replay starts right away, so I'm gonna have to cut back to it in a second. But just kind of general notes in case people are watching this, don't know anything about Ikaruga, don't know anything about you know what was going on behind this. Basically, this was a run that was recorded live from an arcade gaming event in France called Stunfest. A group of Japanese super players, basically expert shooting game players, were invited to this French event to demonstrate their skills live in front of a crowd. In this case, this is a recorded double play run of Ikaruga, which is a very, very well-known shooting game in the West. And like I said, you know, a very off chance that people don't know what Ikaruga is, basically it's a traditional shooter in most senses, but it has the distinction of having a polarity system. Basically, all shots in the game are either black or white, and you can switch your ship between black and white. When you are black, you cannot be damaged by black shots. When you are white, you cannot be damaged by white shots. You can absorb shots of the same color that you currently are. That charges an energy meter, which has 12 steps. When it is completely full, you can release power and use that to kill enemies. There's a lot more intricacies to the system, but the basic thing that you need to know is that in order to score in the game, you need to make chains, and to do that, you need to kill 3 enemies of the same color in succession. So 3 black enemies, and then 3 white enemies, and then 3 black enemies, or whatever. And each chain doubles the value of the previous chain. So the initial one is, I think, 100, then 200, 400, 800, 1600, etc., until you get to 25,600, which is the highest value per chain. And the idea is that once you reach that, you want to maintain that value throughout the rest of the game so that you can build up very, very large scores. Normally it's played with just a single player, but it has great potential for double play because of the polarity mechanic. It kind of enforces a, you know, one route or another kind of mandate through the game almost unintentionally. And with 2 player ships, you can have one person be white and the other person be black in certain circumstances, which can be incredibly helpful. One thing you'll see quite a lot during this run is that places where the kind of the playfield splits in 2, which happens quite frequently in this game, he will use one ship to do one thing and another to do something completely different on the other side of the screen. And that allows him to, in some cases, get significantly more chains than would normally be possible in a single-player run. Now, of course, there's a lot of added complexity trying to do dual play, and I don't even want to begin to try and explain how difficult it must be to learn to do this at this high level of play. But suffice to say that this is a very impressive achievement, simply in terms of the amount of memorization and execution skill it must have taken to begin with. So, and advertising, yay! All right, I guess that's as good a cue as any to go back to the beginning, and I will enable the replay audio once we restart. All right, please. Oh God, don't even get me started on Daily Motion. No, Trap, just don't. Anyway, let's do this. Please let me know how the audio balance is working from between my voice and the video. It should be decent. I played with it a few times before starting this, but please let me know if there's anything egregious that I need to work on. So, like I said earlier, this replay starts at about the 1 minute 30 mark of the game. So he already has 27 chains with each player, and currently he's just beaten kind of the midsection of stage 1, and he's now dealing with groups of bonus enemies which are coming down from the top of the screen. So this might be interesting to try to commentate on, just because there's so much going on, but I will do the best I can. So here we go. So here, he uses one ship to kill all of the black and the other to kill all of the white. Normally you would have to have very precise positioning with one player to do that, but it's easy like this. By alternating his player ship position left and right and left and right, left and right there, he was able to get all those bonus chains much more rapidly than you can as one person. Here he uses both ships as black to almost instantly kill the large white battleship there. And now he's taking out the other one with white while maneuvering inside of the plane for these single ones. He leaves these two alive because it helps his chain strategy for this last section of bonus enemies. There's actually a very particular order that you want to execute those guys in if you're trying to go for maximum score, and his route for 2 players here does it that way. So. This, I think, is really interesting. He prioritizes these small drones on the side of the ship, of the Boshidori here, excuse me, and is able to almost instantly kill the first form like that. I've never seen that before. Here you see that he stays black throughout all of these bursts of white bullets, simply to deal the maximum possible amount of damage, kill the boss with... Okay. Alright, is that down far enough? Basically, he wants to kill the boss as quickly as possible to get as high a completion time bonus as possible. He's able to kill it with 80 seconds remaining, which is amazing. With one player, the best I've ever seen was 74. You get 10k per second, so you got a bonus of 800,000 from that, which is very significant considering that world records for this game are only in the tens of millions. I believe 40 million-ish is about the world record. And now he just uses an interesting symmetrical arrangement to kill everything there. Again, much more complicated a pattern with a single player. So here he uses kind of a combination of the traditional one-player tactic for that section and this new thing that he must have come up with on his own. With one player, normally what you do is dive straight down through the middle and take out 4 enemies at once. But he did that in combination with having the other player move around and kind of hunt and peck for enemies on that top ring. Was thus able to kill things more rapidly. Then with a couple well-timed energy releases, he was able to kill everything and trigger streams of bonus enemies. Here he's just milking for as many absorbed bullets as possible, both for point reasons and because it builds up his energy gauge, which lets him do a double release right there. Because of the way the energy release works in the game, he was able to get it to prioritize some of the enemies of the same color, which is why he was able to maintain his chain there. And you see here, just alternating with energy releases, timing them after he's already killed all the enemies of a certain color, so that it doesn't interfere with his existing chain with the other player. He's extended once with both players already. You get extends at 3 million points in this game, and then every 5 million points. There, with energy releases, he was able to get all of the kind of popcorn from that section. And here he's trying to kill this with only one of the player ships so that he can maintain his chains. Since if you're looking at the chain counters right now, you can see that they're neither of them have completed a chain in quite a while. They'll complete a chain and then roll over with the same set of 3 enemies, 64 and 2 whites, 77 and 2 blacks. But he's able to kill everything and maintain his chains with both sides, which is very impressive. Normally in this stage you have to strategically avoid certain enemies if you want to maintain a chain as one player. But by playing like this, with both, he's able to kill everything on the screen. Except for those generators. I was a little bit surprised by that. Not quite sure what was going on there, but it did enable him to kill the enemies afterwards much more quickly, which of course gives him more rows of these bonus enemies at the end. And I think that the plan must have been, the bonus enemies are more valuable in the long run than the couple of chains that you get from killing the generators. So I think that must have been what he was aiming for. Either way, he has a score of almost 10 million points by the end of Stage 2, which is incredibly impressive. Now this boss, Upazu, actually has 2 distinct weak points of opposing polarity. And of course, as one player, you can't damage them both at once, but like this, he's able to do just that, and kill it incredibly fast, with 89 seconds remaining, so he gets, again, 890,000 points there, 10k per second, which just pushes him over 10 million, and nets him another S++ rank. His Stage 3 route is interesting. He has this... He's popcorn come down from the sides, kind of exactly where he's shooting, but you almost can't tell because he kills them so rapidly. The normal way to deal with that is to position yourself in the center of the screen and kill the popcorn as they converge on your location, but of course he doesn't even need to bother with that. So he's able to get one player there in front of the physical obstructions, so that he can take out the kind of pea shooters before they would normally be killed by the environment in this stage. The moving blocks here, which are shooting lasers at him, would normally be killing those kind of those shooters for him. But since he's able to move ahead and deal with them himself, he's able to get more chains out of it. Here, just building up his chain energy with both players, and then took out both rings very, very quickly there, so he was able to get quite a few streams of bonus enemies here. That last energy release, I'm not 100% sure why he did that. It could have been to make sure... Jesus, why is the stream... really stuttered there for a second. Could have been to make sure that he killed everything by the time that the cutscene took over and moved him into the next section. Alternatively, it could have been because he was planning on having a certain amount of energy at a certain point during this section. To deal with this stretch of popcorn which follows the player's position, it looks like he just sticks one player at the edge of the screen and doesn't move intentionally. There's a much better way of dealing with it than trying to have both of them move around, which of course would be a very, very easy way to kill yourself, playing as both players. Now this is just awesome. This incredibly, he's like weaving diagonally down between these groups of black that are coming from below, while maintaining chains with both of the top ships. I mean, I don't even know how you would come up with a strategy to deal with that, but that stretch of the game. So the first group of those planes that come down, you have to be offset to either the left or the right in order to maintain a chain off of them. And then the second sets that come down, you have to be perfectly centered. You see that he did drop his chains there. He just got his second extend 1P side. Looks like he's close to it on 2P side. This mid-boss Shigi has 4 drones that rotate around her, but by massing his firepower on each side, he's able to take out the drones very fast and reach this end section with bonus enemies. Now these enemies actually split into 2 every time that you shoot them, and he's able to cause them to split like that many times by essentially waiting with one of the ships for them to cluster below of one color while taking out them as a different color up above. And as a result of that, since he killed Shigi so quickly, he's able to get just a ton of these bonus waves like this. He's only now reaching the boss after making many chains like that. Is it stuttering that badly? It only stutters for a second or two on my end, every like 30 seconds, so... Anyway, here, he's not even bothering to change his polarity, or wasn't for a while. He was just moving one of the ships in front of the other to absorb bullets, and since you can actually shoot through the other player in Ikaruga if you're doing 2P, he's able to just mass his firepower as both ships and sit in place, and then just swap one in front when he needs that color, swap one behind when he needs the other color. And that I thought was really interesting. By changing when he's killing those initial enemies, instead of building... oh dear, what the hell happened with the... What happened with the stream here? Huh. Anyway, by changing when he kills those guys, instead of building a full chain with each ship, he builds partial chains with each one that he's then able to fill in that last section where he's dealing with these Toki that move across the screen, those large enemies that fire twin streams of bullets. I thought that was pretty clever.
Ça commence à l'intro, quand on démarre le jeu, il introduit en tant que projet RS Radiant Silvergun. Alors là, ça c'est le moulin de l'enfer. Et là,
so here, you know, initially this section is quite simple, so he's just sitting on either side like that, and then moving downwards to deal with the Flower of Death patterns as they start to emerge. What's nice here about being able to control both players is that he can take things out as they enter the screen, so it doesn't get clogged up at all. And he's able to continuously fire, really, without much concern for breaking his chain, because he's positioning himself in such a way that he pretty much knows that that won't be an issue. Wow, I'm stuttering on my end, too. Stream is not very great, that's kind of meh. Now, note that he's playing on easy, so he does not get suicide bullets from enemies of the same color, and he's missing several rings of enemies that would normally be appearing out in this region. I don't know if my cursor is showing up on the stream, but normally there'd be several additional rows of enemies that would be appearing out there. Since he's playing on easy, he does not get those and does not need to worry about them as well. So here he uses just kind of a modified form of the single-player pattern with both ships. I'm guessing that's because it would just be really complicated to try and deal with, you know, a completely dissimilar pattern for each of the players. Oh man, why is it stuttering like this? God, that's awful. This mid-boss section actually counts as enemies in terms of chainable parts. So you actually do have to kill it in order if you want to maintain your chain through the stage. To deal with that here, he just uses that trick I was talking about earlier where he moves the player from one side to the other and keeps one person as one polarity and the other as the other. And that way he's able to deal with the bullets and also keep damaging things very consistently. Here he uses P1 for most of the scoring on that section, but P2 occasionally to take out some of the single groups of enemies on the right-hand side, which makes his life a hell of a lot easier. Now here, for a short while, he doesn't really need to deal with much of anything. Oh, that's really clever, what? Apparently they take a while to traverse upward, so by sticking himself directly above it, he's able to deal with that as just one player. And then there, he just used energy releases in strategic locations, and then immediately point-blanked the larger turrets up top, and was able to full chain that section and kill it very, very quickly. You do actually get completion time bonuses for that section as well. So the quicker you deal with that and with the mid-boss during this stage, the better.
Alors quand on est tout seul, on a déjà du mal à trouver de la place, mais alors comment on va réussir à trouver de la place pour deux joueurs? Moi, je suis curieux. Surtout que, je sais pas si vous avez remarqué, mais les joueurs se poussent, on peut pas les superposer. On peut pas les superposer, ouais, ils se bousculent l'un l'autre.
So here, I've seen this strategy before. Basically, he just comes into it after building up his energy fully with both ships by sitting in two of the lasers around the boss, and is able to release once he's cleared only a single shutter. And since the core of the boss is incredibly weak, he basically instant kills it. So I'm expecting quite a lot of end bonus. Yeah, 1.58 million from the end bonus. That's awesome. He's now extended twice with, excuse me, 3 times with each ship, so he has a total of 10 stock. Oh, what the crap is going on here? He was just pausing randomly. Okay. And again with that intentionally asymmetric chaining, which makes things easier for him to handle. Now this is really interesting. It's just a modified version of the single-player pattern, where you would just be at the left side of the screen, but here, by positioning himself at either extreme, he's able to essentially use the exact same pattern. Since he has 2 players, he can take care of these large ships, the Chogunbo, very, very quickly. They shoot out so many white bullets, and he's kind of sitting almost inside of their hitbox at a position where he can absorb the shots pretty much as soon as they're being fired. There, the reason that he didn't release, even though he could have in time to kill it, was because he wanted to save his energy for the fight with this first phase of Tagari. My guess is that he's going to be releasing very quickly as white to take care of both of the black heads very quickly. Yeah. Looks like he's getting rid of them as soon as possible, then switching to taking out the whites. And my guess is that he's going to try and build up full energy with... Oh no, he didn't. Interesting. I expected him to build up full energy with both ships before moving on to this section, because the worms can be very deadly. Oh, but it looks like just by sitting like that and just kind of macroing one of them out of the way with the other player, he didn't have to worry about it at all. This Tagari strategy, oh man, that's great. So it looks like those homing lasers target based on where you are vertically on the screen, which means that simply by alternating up and down and up and down and up and down, he was able to misdirect them. And he went for quick killing Tagari rather than absorbing it because for several reasons. First of all, as 2 players, he was able to kill it much more quickly than a single player would have, so he gets huge boss destroy bonuses, because you get a boss destroy for the first, second, and third forms of Tagari. And second, because on easy mode like this, Tagari actually does not fire all that quickly. The rate at which he fires homing lasers is proportional to the difficulty that you're... What the hell? That... There's a safe spot there, apparently. That's fantastic. I've never seen that before. So here, to deal with the Stone Light's patterns, he's just like, screw it, I'm just gonna safe spot. I've never seen that before. That's
Il
excellent.
faut savoir que
Oh, death
le
there.
nombre de
Not...
vies que vous avez accumulées au cours de la partie, si
Um,
le
so
jeu
these patterns, the first ring that you see is always going to be slower, so you should always be the opposite polarity of that initial ring that you see, and then the second one will expand at a quicker rate, and then you can switch after it's
pas
passed
déconner,
you.
10% du score, hein, faut pas déconner. Mais c'est vrai que ça peut faire une différence.
Il absorbe pas mal là quand même. Hein. Il est vraiment. Il a à la
This
fois
looks like it'd be really tricky to dodge with 2 players.
showman, il montre des choses.
Anyway, back to what I was saying.
Alors, juste,
The lasers that Tagari fires are directly proportional to the difficulty that you're playing on. So if you're playing on hard, he actually fires lasers at more than at a rate of like 2 volleys per second. In addition to doing his, he shoots out incredibly dense spreads after a certain point in time. But since he's playing on easy, he wouldn't get that kind of frequency, which means that it would not be worth it in terms of overall point gain to have dealt with it that way.
pas mal, surtout en double
That's a total of 10 stock at the end that he was able to convert into lives. So I'm guessing at 500k per stock, he's going to get a bonus of
33 millions, quelque chose
5 million to his total score, which pushes him at 43, which is higher than the single player world record as far